Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Vortex, where lies and falsehoods are trapped and exposed. I'm Michael Voris. As we conclude our extended coverage of the LA prayer rally against the Dodgers and that award given to the anti-Catholic hate group there are some important takeaways. If you were unable to catch our Church Militant live stream of the actual event last Friday, we've pulled a few interview highlights we think are worth focusing on because they cover the gamut of the struggle that we are in, both spiritual all the way down to temporal. Up first, a bishop, the only bishop to appear at the event, at least publicly, Bishop Joseph Strickland of Tyler, Texas, laying out the proper way to understand the struggle from a purely spiritual perspective.
We're not made for comfort, we're made for greatness. Truth, when we embrace it, brings greatness. Look through history. Great men and women have risen when they knew the truth and were willing and bold enough, audacious enough to bring that truth. But I think that we're not made for comfort. There's too much comfort in the world. I seek it. We all do. It's a little warm. We look for the shade. We want air conditioning. We want no pain. We want no discomfort. One thing that I read just recently that I think is very important for us as Catholics, and it's part of the whole story, is to remember mortification is something we're called to do. To say, well, I'll endure a little pain, or I'll give up a little comfort, or I'll do something that, or give up something that I would have loved to have that piece of dessert or something, but to refrain for the sake of mortification, to remind ourselves that our hearts are restless until they rest in God. So I think that we're too comfortable. I mean, I think that is a simple answer to the problems in the world.
Well said. Remember, the word mortification comes from the Latin word morte, meaning death. You give up something of your enjoyment of your life. What too many Catholics really fail to understand is the decades, even centuries-long assault that has been going on across a very, very broad front. The institutions of Western civilization, all of them, every last one, didn't just come tumbling down overnight. They weren't built overnight. They wouldn't be destroyed overnight, or even in the course of a few years. Our good friends at Tradition, Family, and Property, TFP, have chronicled the meltdown as well as stood defiantly in the face of it at hundreds of events across the nation and the world. So it was a pleasure to catch up with them in Los Angeles.
I think that there has been a process, if you look historically for centuries, that has been breaking down Christian civilization. You know, we were talking on the way over here, so many things that our Lord Jesus Christ brought into the world, things like Christian charity. We live in a society today that, although it's very secular, certain courtesy and certain things, all of this came as a fruit of the Catholic Church, the charity that our Lord Jesus Christ brought to the world. And there's been, that is exactly what's under attack. So you can see, fundamentally, our Lord Jesus Christ is the one who's under attack here. And it just keeps getting worse as the years go by, but it's not irreversible. It's not irreversible. When people do stand up, we can make a change, and you've seen that all over the country, anywhere you host events like this. When you see the effect that this type of activity has had on companies like Target and Bud Light recently, there's more than just corporate decisions, business decisions being made here. There's something much more sinister behind it. And again, I think it's that possessive desire to remove everything that is Christ-like from society.
Well said, Michael. On the cultural, political level, which is where the spiritual battlefield is, there are a few folks who have their finger on the pulse of all of this, as well as human events. Jack Posobiec, a good friend of Church Militants. Poso, as he's nicknamed, gets that media is one of the large culprits in the demise of civilization, just as we do here at Church Militants. So I devoted ourselves to being a media apostolate. Both he and us are determined to stop the bleeding as much as possible.
We need more public displays of the faith. We need this, and in a weird way, right? In a weird way, it's almost amazing, not that it happened, but amazing the response to it happening, that the people here, I mean, you hear them right behind, they're marching down the street, carrying crosses, carrying, I think I saw Our Lady of Fatima somewhere back there, that carrying the flags, that you would have never, and this is how God works, right? This is how God works, because he gives you a challenge, and the Lord challenges us, and it's up to us. Are we going to respond to that challenge, or are we gonna fail? Are we gonna shrink from that challenge? And I think, I look around here and I say, this is one of the largest Catholic events of, it's hard to explain. You'd almost have to say the largest outpouring of the church militant that I've ever seen. They'll say a few dozen folks showed up with crazy tinfoil hatters like Michael Voris and Jack Posobiec and some bishop no one's ever heard of. That'll be the media. And the LA Times is here, but they're not covering any of the speeches. No, they're not. They're not covering any of the speeches. They're taking a few pictures. They'll find one guy with like a weird shirt or something, and they'll show that, and that'll be the whole coverage. And this is why it's so important for independent media, like what you do, like what we do at Human Events, just to tell the truth. Just in addition to the mission, but also just to tell the truth about what's actually going on in this country.
Those cool shades. I want to get something like that. It'll cool. Of course, the wreckage of the collapse is being inherited by the younger generations, the few of them who really do get what's going on. On that front, there are few among them who articulate the crisis better than John Doyle, a 20-something who gives no quarter to the destroyers of civilization and will be one of our speakers at our annual Strength and Honor Men's Conference in Detroit here the first weekend of August. Click on that link and sign up and reserve your seat.
People didn't want to do what was necessary, do things like this back when the changes in the culture were less obvious. And now it's at a point where it's literally your children aren't even going to be your children anymore. I mean, in this state right now, they're entertaining legislation that would allow for the state to take a child away from their parents if the parents do not agree with the child's gender identity, whatever that means, which is going to be whatever the state-funded teacher tells them it is, or TikTok, or whatever the platform is. So that's how we got here, is people being lazy. And quite honestly, I'm glad to see that people are standing up and fighting back, but it may be too late. So we got to keep it up and be vigilant and pray a lot.
Got to fight, regardless of what the odds are. You got to fight, because what's your option? If those brief comments from all the above don't help clarify the nature and the corresponding call of duty for men, then little else will. Again, if you'd like to reserve your seats at our Strength and Honor Conference, please just click on that provided link. It will be a very good weekend, first weekend of August. God love you. I'm Michael Voris.